Hello, I'm Jack Rickard with EVTV. This is my compadre and consigliere, El Brenius Maximus Magnus Augustus.
We're going to have to find out what I did good this week, huh? I'm getting up there in the food chain.
You're good, pretty good. What are you bringing?
Well, it actually showed up in the post, I guess.
Little wake whiskey?
A little Jameson, some Irish whiskey from our friend in Ireland.
Damien McGuire.
And we are fans of Irish whiskey, actually.
Damien, I sent him a JLD 404 meter. And he's put that to work and has found out all kinds of little horrors in his headway pack.
Oh, no.
So he's working on his batteries these days.
Okay. It's good to have a meter to work on your batteries.
So,
what do they say in Ireland? Slaint? Is that something like that? I think S-L-A-I-N-T-E, something. If I'm making a mess of your language, please forgive me in advance.
Thank you, Damien. They say that you need to learn to make whiskey like an Irishman, sell it like a Scotsman, and drink it like an American.
Drink it like an American, that's
Buy
right.
it like an American.
That's right. I like Irish whiskey.
I do too.
Yeah, very nice, smooth, triple distilled, pot stills. Not all the time, but very nice. Thank you, Damien.
The big news, I think, is the combined charging system.
Yes, I was reading about that, yeah.
This will slow things down.
Oh, this will to a crawl, yeah, because they'll be all fighting and all kinds of stuff to go on.
We've got Janimo out there in the Nissan Leaf now.
Yeah.
And so a number of automakers, including General Motors, Daimler, Volkswagen, Chrysler.
Maybe BMW.
BMW's in there.
There's a few of them in there, yeah.
Have all banded together to make a single port charging system.
Yeah, Porsche.
It is probably the ugliest connector I've ever seen.
It is the weirdest thing. I know it looks kind of, it isn't very attractive.
With the magic video.
We can show it to you.
And but this thing has some attractive features. It allows for single phase AC charging, just like we do now.
Saw that, yeah.
3-phase AC fast charging. I don't know what that would take. Quite a charger.
It's quite a charger, yeah.
DC and fast DC charging, all through one port and one connector, which will probably be about $11,000.
Yeah, it'd be like this big, be the size of a gallon jug.
In the announcement, notably absent was any mention of SAE.
I know, I didn't notice anything
The
from the
Society
SAE.
of International Engineers
Yes, I
and
saw that.
some other European groups are on board, as are all these automakers. Now, they've announced such things in the past that we do not any longer remember.
Right,
so it's not
it's hard to say. Yeah.
Tesla has their fast charge. Chademo has theirs.
Yeah.
Which is what's on the Nissan.
Right, on the Leaf, yes.
And General Motors, not to be outdone, I think is what's probably behind this. And
To get their own.
To have their own.
Oh, Jesus.
And
So we're back where we were years ago.
Game on.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen this play out? Oh, well.
Yeah, we're back where we are.
We're not going to rush to do that. However, speaking of rushing, now I was very clear that you can get on eBay and get a plastic version of a J1772 connector from the same guy.
Oh, yeah, right.
For a quarter of the price.
Yeah.
Well, not really, half the price.
Yeah, but still, a significant discount, yes.
We got 3 of them.
Right.
Mentioned it on the show. From the release of the show to sold out of the 3 was 4 hours.
Yes, that was pretty funny.
David finally sent me 7 more, the remainder of the 10 I had ordered.
Right.
They lasted 1 day.
They did, I think, and that was on a Sunday afternoon, too, they sold.
Yes.
You guys are busy out there.
And so he's going to make me another 20, but I think we've got a production foul up here.
Probably, yeah.
And he sent us a little video that's remarkably good and describes how he got started doing
Oh,
this.
really? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And what the problem is. And let's take a look. This is David Kurzel of Modular EV Power.
Yes.
Hello, I'm David Kurzel. I'm from Modular EV Power, and we make the J1772 aluminum connectors and the AVC2 modules that Jack's selling. We have production problems. We're a weekend business. It takes a lot of time to make these parts. So I want to assure you all that Jack is asking for them, demanding them, but we just can't produce them right away. We should have parts by the end of the month. I'd like to take a couple minutes here and talk about how these parts came about in the first place. Jack's mentioned a few times that I build model engines. Somehow it's gotten twisted into model train engines, but they're really model engines. Copies of antique farm engines, aircraft engines, things like that. One day at one of our Electric Auto Association meetings, right about the time the J1772 2010 standard was being published, one of the members in our club said, "I'd like to have someone make these things," because there were none available at the time. He managed to get a sample from someone. We got a copy of the standard, and one weekend I started making models, and I started making the J1772 connector. This is a photo of the very first one. Then after making it, I realized way too much metal ended up on the floor, so we changed the design a little bit, made the materials more efficient, and came up with the current design. This is the first prototype of the first design. There's a lot of handwork involved in making these things. The individual brass pins are soldered to the wires, then the brass pins are nickel plated, then they have to get assembled into the actual connector bodies. It takes a little over 40 minutes to make each one of these connectors by hand. The little AVC2 modules came up because the J1772 connectors are never intended to be mated or separated while power is connected. So this module ensures that that will never happen by giving you a signal that will allow you to control a relay which will prevent this from happening. So I just wanted to give you an update on what's happening and assure you that by the end of May, pieces will be available again. Thank you.
Well, he has been busy. No wonder he's not making enough charge ports. He's making videos now.
Well, right. And
He's been a busy guy.
asked him to, he's the president of their local
Yep.
EV club
Yep.
down there in Florida. I said, find somebody with a hot car and
Uh-huh.
try your hand.
Yeah. Yep.
We could use a Florida correspondent.
That's right. We can use a correspondent down there in the southeast.
And so, but I thought a pretty good video.
He did a nice job. Yeah. Yeah, it does a nice job.
So, and obviously we like the charge port. We can get working on the combined charging system.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I'm not going to hold my breath for all that to shake out.
No,
It's an interesting notion. I like that they've combined a lot of things into a single plug, but it looks like some sort of Ghostbusters.
I know it does. Yeah, yeah, you'll see it on the new Men in Black 3.
Yeah, pretty soon it'll be like a Men in Black 3 thing.
You have to put on your sunglasses first.
And so I don't know exactly where that's going with so many different standards.
Right.
David will be a vendor.
Yes, he's going to be a vendor to show, yeah.
Our electric vehicle conversion convention. I'll put up this weekend, I guess, that vendor, sort of a floor diagram of what we're doing at the Show Me Center. It is, what is today, May the 9th?
4th.
May the 4th. I know it
Friday
was
the
one
4th.
day in May.
Yeah, single digit day.
Just a reminder, the $400 discount and the discount for the $99 car
Right.
is to 1 June.
Okay, so to the 1st of June, you guys have got less than a month to sign up and get the $400 deal.
So if you're holding off waiting,
Yeah, just do it.
we need to know early to make
Yeah.
plans.
Yeah, so
If
just
there's
sign
going to
up.
be 30 of you, we'll do it right here in this room.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we planned on the first time.
That's what we were going to do the first time.
That's why we put in the white floor and everything.
And I think we're going to have a better show, more speakers, and in a better venue this year. So you don't want to miss it. What else you got? Is that it for the week?
No, we had talked a little bit last week about, GE, and a lot of these, and I'm sure you probably have some input in this. I think what the car sales came out later, but General Electric, in some of their divisions, I think maybe their hospital division, healthcare division, and things. Every single person is going to be driving a Volt, and I guess they bought 25,000 or 15,000, or ordered 25 or 15,000 volts. Was that
Is
what
that
they
right?
did?
No, the original announcement was that they were going to buy 10,000 electric cars in the future.
Yeah, and I think they made a major commitment to the Volts, and also because of their leasing division, I think that they're going to be leasing the vehicles too. So but GE has made a major commitment. And we were talking about Jeff Immelt last week, saying they see 10 cents in every dollar sold to electric vehicles in something that GE makes, chargers, infrastructure, whatever. So General Electric has been busy out there.
I feel like I'm in fantasy land sometimes.
I know.
Part of this is the reality distortion field put up by these moves by the government, well-intended, with unintended consequences.
Right. Yep.
All around to foster this. It's I agree it's a public good, but first do no harm. The California CAFE standards.
Yeah, right.
Have given rise. What this is some requirements. If you sell a certain number of vehicles in California, you have to have among them a certain number of zero emissions vehicles.
Zero emissions vehicles.
They
Yeah.
can be fuel cell, hydrogen, electric, but they can't have emissions.
Right.
Some of these cars aren't really cars.
No. They're not even good experiments.
The RAV4, for example, is a conversion done with Tesla components for the second time.
Second time around, yeah.
Simply to comply with CAFE standards. They have no interest in producing this car.
No.
They're not going to make any money on it. It's they're probably paying people to drive it.
Yeah,
But
they
it's
may
to meet
to meet the
CAFE
corporate,
standards.
average fuel economy, yeah.
When you look at a Ford Escort, where they've cranked up 67 dealers and are pressuring them to get green, most of them are in California.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And so a lot of these cars aren't really electric car offerings. They're CAFE
Right.
offerings.
They're offerings to the gods of California. Air
it's
resources,
just
yeah.
The Leaf and the Volt, I would say, don't fall into that. But last month, recall that General Motors had sold 2,289 volts.
Yeah, I think it would be a big month for them, right?
Bob
Last
Lutz said, "Hey, it's from here on up. It'll never go back."
To the what was that to the stars and beyond or
Yes,
something?
to infinity and
beyond.
beyond.
That's right.
Well, it's their number this month is 1462.
Oh, did they go back into spaceship?
So they fell back down. I said at the time a HOV lane.
Right, that it was a
which
phenomenon of that. Yeah.
And it appears that it was. They've sold 5,377 to date this year, though. They sold 493 in April of last year. So there's some
That's
growth.
better. Yeah, there's some growth there. Yeah.
The Leaf cratered.
Oh man.
They sold 579 last month. They dropped to 370 in April.
Oh man. What
They
happened
sold
out there?
573 in April a year ago, and their year to date is 2,103. Now they closed 2010 3,000 units above the volt,
Yeah.
and now all of a sudden they're 3,000 behind already this year.
Yeah, they're not on a trend to do that again. No.
The persistence is part of this. You simply have to endure. As I've said all along, the entire driver on this is acculturation. Getting people used to the idea, familiar with the product, and risk averse.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Minimizing the
Yeah,
risk.
we're minimizing the risk. Yeah.
The Toyota Prius, by contrast, and it started in 2000 selling nothing.
Right. Right.
They sold 32,593 Priuses this month of all kinds.
Of
Priuses
all-
and Lexus hybrids and Camry hybrids.
Okay. Okay.
All hybrids.
Okay.
32,593, and 25,000 of those was the Prius.
Excuse me. Oh, that.
We've got a guy that works for us maintaining aircraft down at the hangar, Alan.
Yeah,
Ogden,
Alan. Yeah.
a dozen years. Alan has driven a pickup truck since age 16.
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
He's
yeah.
been a farmer
Pickup
most
truck.
of his
Yep.
life.
Yep.
He just pictures himself in a pickup truck.
Yep.
Well, he's working, for a helicopter company up in Sparta, Illinois. For us down
Yeah,
here in Cape
he's gotta
Girardeau, he
drive
lives
a lot.
halfway between. He was spending $33 a day on gasoline.
Wow.
Bought him a Prius, brand new Prius.
Excuse me. I saw that. Yeah.
And guess what? He's spending 10 now. He saves $23 a day.
Yeah, he told me he got over the pickup truck when he passed the gas stations for the first time that he always had to pull into. He
Yes.
said, I asked him, how long did it take, Alan? He goes, not long.
He's a Prius fan.
He
and
is
so
now,
this
yeah.
is part of the acculturation. This man is a big guy.
Yeah.
He's a man's man, a farmer, a salt of the earth. He's a pickup truck guy.
Oh, absolutely. I've always seen him in a pickup truck, a red pickup
He's
truck.
never driven anything but a pickup truck.
Yep.
And he's come over to the dark side with the Prius because it gets 50 miles per gallon.
Yeah, and he's driving a lot. Yeah, makes sense.
But he's driving a lot. He could not do an electric car.
No, right.
But
it
if we
wouldn't
get
make
the
sense.
range up where he could,
Yeah, it'd be even better.
yeah,
Yep,
it
it'd
would be better than the $10.
exactly.
And so this is a thing that's going to happen, but it's going to happen its own way. It's not going to happen because you scream at it or insist that it do.
No.
People have to become acculturated to it. General Motors is there's been what there actually was an accidental spill. Really? Familiar with OnStar?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Well, they were listing all the vehicles that they'll be available on in 2013, and one of them was the Cadillac ELR.
oh, okay.
No one's supposed to know
No
there
one
is a
knows supposed to know there's a Cadillac
ELR.
ELR.
Supposedly late 2013, a 2014 model. It'll have the same essential drivetrain as the Volt,
As the Volt.
but more miles, electric only.
Oh, okay. It'd be nice and upscale, too.
Probably
yeah.
about $70,000 upscale vehicle.
But that's where they could make some hay. Yeah.
That's what I've said all along.
Yeah, that's where they could make some hay. A little longer range and a nice, nicely appointed vehicle. Yeah. Cool. That's a good move.
Speaking of that, back from the dead.
I guess they forgot to put a wooden stake in the vampire's heart.
They didn't silver stake it.
Yeah, that's right.
Showed up in a Chinese trade show.
Yes. Yeah. The Aptera is back with planned by Zaptera. So they've even got a new name.
Aptera.
Aptera. Yeah. It led, last winter, Aptera died suddenly, dashing hopes that the company's iconic three-wheel electric car / motorcycle will ever be sold. Those hopes are being reawakened by a new company, Zaptera.
Oh, they're shipping in 2013.
2013 is what they're saying.
This
Yeah.
company's been shipping since 2009.
Yes.
Always 6 months from now.
Yeah.
But welcome back.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Welcome back. Yeah, the company. Yeah, so yeah, Chinese
There's
company.
some enthusiastic Aptera followers who did not want that company to die. Many of them had money down on it, and I guess lost it. Did they get all? Did they return all those deposits?
You know, I don't. I thought
I
they
think
did.
they
I think
did.
they did. I think they did return the deposits. Yeah.
And so those that had deposits will be first in line.
Okay, if they want to re-up.
If they want to re-up and
Okay.
do it all over again.
Okay. Yeah. Do it one more
that's,
time. Do
that's
it to me
kind of
one more
interesting.
time, huh?
eBay has set up an alternative fuels area of motors.
Oh.
Now this sounds like so what, but I had this huge search string to screen out hybrids and electric windows and
Right. You get electric in there. You get all kinds of.
now they have sorted
blenders.
it out, and you can select electric car, compressed natural gas, hydrogen, hybrid, and get a listing of automobiles that are just in that
Oh, how cool!
zone. And it really does make it easier.
I bet. Yeah, I bet. Because I'd looked on there a few times. It was a nightmare.
It's quite a bit easier
Yeah.
to deal
Oh,
with,
cool.
and so I think that'll work pretty well. What else you got?
Well, I did find an interesting little video that we can show of a Chinese farmer that built a solar and wind powered car. And I almost can't describe it. I guess we should just show it to him.
We'll have to dig it out. Is there video available?
Yeah, video's available.
Okay.
Yeah. But
I'll grab it. China's been having some problems with their plans for world domination of the electric car
I
space.
know.
Is this their move back?
yeah, I think this is their latest foray into
Let's take a
into
look.
that market.
这风力要跑起40-50迈吧，起来以后，它就可以能动作，它动作它可以也充电，不过它起到辅助作用，然后有2套供电线路，后边拉着自动发电，然后这儿呢发电是高速起来它可以发电，这属于风力发电。
对，
嗯，
好，咱们哦，
这边这是配电盘，这属于是发电的，这是保险，这是供电保险，这是前面风力发电的电压，这是后边惯性发电的电压，这是工作的电压电量表，这是电流表，这是工作的电流表，这是钥匙牌，这是转向器，大灯，这是小灯，就是咱近光，这是转向灯，往这边拐，左拐，这个有喇叭，底下这是刹车，这个是油门，5级变速的油门，这个是属于这俩是太阳能，贴的是太阳能，如果这跑起来以后，它可以自动找阳光，就是说可以打开。就想做一个能够自充电的，这个比其他的电动汽车要行驶公里长，想做上一车。现在咱这个汽车一般行驶140公里吧， 我这要想达到200公里以上，这是我理想。
Well,
Well, there's Tang Zhengping from Beijing's Tanzhu Wanji Wangletown.
innovation comes from the strangest places.
It's described as awesome. And I don't even know what else to say. You guys just saw it. But hey, so you think your cars are, need a little work. I did like the robin's egg blue, though.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
No,
and
I
that
think,
fan in the
the
front.
colors.
was
I
pretty
wonder
cool.
if it comes in different colors.
Yeah, that fan in the front was pretty cool.
When will they be shipping?
Well, I guess right after the news Aptera.
Right, it's the new Aptera and the Chinese New Year.
And it's right. And we got to take off time for Chinese New Year.
Well, wouldn't you know?
That's it for me from the news front. It was a.
What do you want to do with this? The word for the day?
I guess we could do the word for the day. People. Some people are paranoid. We say things. People say things and get paranoid, and the world is against them. Mm-hmm. Well, I have the opposite of paranoia is pronoia, and this is the belief that a massive conspiracy exists to help you.
Well,
so if you're pronoic, you're just everybody's out there to help you. I mean, you just didn't know how much help you had. So
there is a massive conspiracy to help you.
to help you. That's right. So just be there or be square. It's okay.
Cool. We actually are getting into a very interesting phase with the Cadillac Escalade. We've been carefully measuring and calculating and so on for so long that I'd gotten used to not making any progress.
I know. We're just like doing stuff.
We got the motor in last week, and it's just falling like a waterfall now.
Yeah, things are really starting to come together.
We put in the controllers, the DC to DC converters. It's actually pretty magic, huh? Let's take a look.
Let's take a look.
Brainius Maximum Magnus Augustus.
Hail Cheeser.
Green Bay, Wisconsin. Let's talk about the Escalade. This is moving, as often is the case, rather briskly.
It is, which things just seem to be bolting together.
That's been my sense. After we get the battery boxes in and the motor in, strapping on the stuff is still a series of small problem exercises, but they're a lot smaller.
Yeah, you can like carry them over. You don't have to have a cherry picker to lift them up.
Exactly.
It's a little easier to deal with.
We have mounted our two solitons.
Yeah, they're in there good.
Again, I like to be able to see and get to the motors and our components. We're not going to cover up the front of the truck with batteries, even though that would lend some to our weight and balance, but it's a pickup truck.
Yeah, it should be able to handle it.
Our squatted down on the haunch is getting better with every piece we put on.
Yeah, it's starting to raise a little bit,
So the effect I wanted, does anybody know what a 54 Ford flathead V8 looks like?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's kind of how we mounted the solitons.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
And I've got the two terminal strips up. We took an angle and a piece of our decking, our aluminum decking, and bolted it to our motor mounts.
To one of the motor mount bolts,
Yeah, the engine mount bolts.
Yep.
And so it's only connected in one place. So to brace it up, Brain has fashioned us a little bracket for each of them to connect to the Garrett turbocharger.
Right. Our cooling fan,
which we're using as a cooling fan.
Right.
And then one small bracket in the back that connects to the top transmission adapter bolt.
Right. Yeah, and it really stiffened it up.
That has stiffened it up
It's
very
in there.
good.
I mean, that's in there. That's in there good.
It might not seem like a thing, but a car moves around a lot, and you want to have your controller securely mounted. I also want to be able to get at it. The rear terminals are going to be stretched,
They're going to be,
but
especially
they're
when
accessible.
when the we figure the vehicle's going to be up to here when we get it together, yeah.
Well, now, when we get it all together, it will be coming in from the top. It'll
Yeah.
actually be more accessible.
Yeah, we'll have to
We're standing on the ground, reaching toward
reaching
the back.
up, yeah.
Of course, the front ones are very accessible. But the big thing is I can get to the terminals quite easily.
Yeah, yep, that's going to be great.
And so that's the solid time. Brian has reinstalled our air conditioning and our fluid pump,
Yep,
which recall now is going to serve double duty, both as power steering and our Hydro Boost.
our
is that what they
Hydro
call it?
Boost, yep,
The
our Hydro
brakes.
Boost, yep, which is
And
up here.
so-
We already showed them that we had Sling Blade make that that change for us.
Our Blogites have now gone the other direction.
What are
and
they
are trying
doing?
to convince me I don't even need the reluctor ring. Think
I don't know.
I think
that,
we do.
That one we might have found out with the Mini Cooper. That seems to be a very important bit of data.
The progress today, I may have to get out of the way, is we have installed one of our Vicor Megapac single phase power supplies here as a DC to DC
Yes.
converter. Mark,
Weisheimer?
Weisheimer,
Weisheimer, right?
something,
Yeah.
has, in addition to fixing all my
Yeah, all the power supplies and loads
no, not
and
my
stuff.
power supply, my constant current loads.
Yeah,
I
your
blew
loads,
up.
yeah.
He repaired those at no charge.
I know, we
I'm-
needed
I'm getting
those
where I
too.
like this guy.
Yeah.
He's pretty good with electronics. But he turned us on to these mega packs. You put, this one has 6 5-volt 40 amp cards in it
Oh, okay.
and 2 15-volt 10 amp cards in it.
Okay.
And I've got them strapped up where that's 15 volts, 100 amps.
Okay. That's
total
pretty good.
output.
Yeah, that should be plenty.
Now that would be, this will run on 115 or 240 volts AC, and therein lies the tail. If we hook our pack voltage, which will be 192 volts,
Yeah.
into L1 and L2, this will actually run off of.
Okay. Okay.
Now we may not get a full 100 amps, but actually I've tested them and we do.
We do. Okay. Good.
And so it makes a nice DC to DC converter, which remains kind of a hole in limbo. We've put our a terminal bar here to connect to easily, and hooked up our 2 battery cables
Yeah. Yeah. Our stock battery cables. Yeah.
to that. We're going to tie, of course, the negative side to ground. We also have a ground from the system that has a
Yes.
Hall effect sensor on it that the ECU uses to detect battery current.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so we're going to hook all that up normally. Here, Brian, with a cunning bit of bathroom hardware,
Yeah, plumbing know-how. That's right.
has inverted our butterfly valve and has it right here where I can see it and indeed manipulate it, and connected our harness to it, and we're ready to go with the throttle position signal. I have 2 wires here. One is the ground and one is the output.
Oh, okay.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit because it's come up in email questions. When you're doing like a potentiometer output
Okay.
for your throttle, you don't have to use the 5 volts from the Soliton or from anything else. 5 volts is 5
It's 5
volts.
volts. Yeah. Yeah.
However, they have to have the same plane of reference,
Okay.
and that's your ground.
Okay. Okay.
And so whatever the ECU uses for a ground, we have to use for a ground, and the Soliton has to use for a ground.
Okay. Okay.
So it's not a floating voltage that winds up being something
Be
else.
different than 5
Right.
volts.
So they,
yeah.
they all need to be tied to the same frame of reference. The output, and I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to do a little circuit board with a LM1458 operational amplifier.
Okay.
and you simply tie the output back to the negative input, it becomes a voltage follower. That is an amplifier with a amplification factor of 1.
Oh, okay.
So
It
the
doesn't change
output
anything,
will
yeah.
follow the
Right.
input,
Right.
but it buffers
Uh-huh.
the signal. And it's almost infinite impedance
Okay.
on the input.
Okay.
It's not really infinite, but near enough.
Close enough for government work, huh?
And that will prevent us from loading that signal. Recall the ECU is going to compare the two signals.
Right.
And if they're
Right.
not
Yeah.
in
We're out.
sync,
Yeah.
it's actually going to throw us into limp mode.
Yeah, that's all we need.
It's very touchy about the throttle position signal and the accelerator signal, thanks to Toyota.
Oh, yeah, with all that unintended acceleration stuff, yeah.
Right. So that's, I want to keep from loading that. We've had another little bit of a breakthrough, which is entirely a thought experiment. And so, I warn people about thinking themselves,
Right,
typing
because we don't
themselves
know.
smart.
That's right.
But we have had a number of DC to DC converter failures.
Yes, we have.
And we've had particularly a lot of them reported using the Soliton controller. And in fact, it looked for a while like Solitons were eating DC to
You
DC
just blowing them up,
converters.
huh? Okay.
Jeffrey Jenkins recommends a inductor on the input to the DC to DC converter under the theory that ripple from the controller
Okay, yeah.
on the battery pack lines is exceeding the ratings of the input capacitors on the DC to DC converter.
Interesting.
It's a
Interesting.
theory.
Yeah, interesting
I can
theory.
work with that. However, it doesn't make any sense to me in our case because we're using a power supply that uses 240 volts AC as the input.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, what would the deal, yeah. How would that work?
Well,
Yeah.
it's a higher frequency from
Yeah.
the Soliton,
Yeah.
but it's not as big a swing.
Right, right.
And so we're basically using half of the input rectifier as our input.
Yeah.
And there are capacitors in there. Do you recall a Mini Cooper Clubman conversion?
Yes. How about you?
How about you? Every time we would go drive the car, we would blow the fuse on the air conditioner
Yes, on the controller for the AC, yeah.
And in fact, sometimes we'd blow the caps on
Yeah.
the air conditioner.
Yep,
control.
on that board, yeah, on the controller board, yep.
So we had to get a new controller board.
Yes.
We had to keep changing fuses. And I noticed that every time we stepped on the accelerator, that I would blow a fuse.
Right,
The air conditioner
right,
would
yeah.
work fine until I stepped on it. And at that point, it would blow the fuse.
blow.
And we had no air conditioning.
No, right, yep, we were going through that for a while.
That was a very aggravating
It was,
problem.
yeah, especially in July.
One of our viewers suggested a diode.
Yes, that's right,
Clang, 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 clang.
yes.
And as it turns out, what was happening, I immediately implemented it, and of course it worked.
It did,
It was right in front of me. When we would step on the accelerator, the pack voltage would sag immediately.
yeah, yeah.
And what did the capacitors in the air conditioning controller try to do? Drive the car.
Try to feed out what they had, yeah. They weren't quite intended to do
They
that.
were buffering the entire
Yeah.
battery pack and
Yes.
trying to put out enough current to drive
To keep
the
us
motor,
going, yeah, under the sag.
which rather exceeded the 30 amp fuse.
Yes, quite a bit, yes. Yeah,
Why does this happen more with Solitons than other controllers? And by the way, we've lost one of our Megapacks on the Cobra. I had to replace it.
yes, we did, yeah, yeah, yep. Yeah,
And
we had to
that was
send
with a net gain controls.
Right.
But again, a 1400 amp controller.
Yeah, yeah, 1400 amp controller, yeah.
When we get into these larger controllers and you step on the accelerator and call for 800 or 1000 or 1200 amperes,
Yeah,
our batteries, which thus far are not A123s, sag.
yeah, they do.
And that voltage drops. But you have charged the input capacitors to your air conditioning
Yeah,
controller
whatever
and probably your DC to DC converter to your resting pack voltage.
Yeah, yeah.
And their response is to try to drive the motor.
It's like, okay, we'll give it a shot. Oops.
Now, the problem with that is we have two 11-inch motors. We're going to be
Yeah.
sucking 2,000 amps. And I'm pretty sure we'll take out a DC to DC converter immediately, whatever size inductor we had on it.
Right, right.
Actually, the inductor would help. It would slow the discharge
That
of
rush.
the capacitors.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But I got a better idea. How about let's give up the 0.4 volts and use the same solution as we did on the air conditioner, a diode.
It's only one way. Yeah, yeah.
They can check in, but they can't check back out.
That's right.
It's the Roach Hotel.
The Electron Motel.
Electron Roach Hotel. And so what we've done is installed a little 50 amp diode I had, which is gross overkill.
Yeah.
You're probably doing 10 amps at 190 volts, not even 8 amps, to do the total output at 15 volts of 100 amps.
Of 100 amps, yeah.
But overkill is always appropriate. They're 20, 30 bucks.
Yeah.
And Brian has done such a good job of installing this, I can't show it to you, but it's a little block with two screws on the top. You hook the, there's a little arrow with a bar. Hook the bar into the positive input. L2 is what I use. Doesn't matter on the Megapac. And your positive battery terminal to the back side of the arrowhead.
There, yep, okay.
And that is a one-way flow in for the positive voltage.
Yeah.
Then if your voltage sags, the caps can't discharge
yeah.
back out.
Back out, yeah. Yeah.
Trying to drive two 11-inch motors in an 8,000-pound vehicle.
We appreciate the effort, but
You gotta admire
we
them.
really do.
But this is not what we want.
Not what's supposed to be going on. Oh, cool.
And so I believe we have puzzled through by basically recognizing the second instance
Right.
of a peripheral with input capacitors that really needs to be isolated by diode from trying to discharge back into
in.
your pack to recharge it or into your motor to
Right,
drive
to
it.
drive, yep.
And I believe that's what's caused the failure of the Shinnick DC
Yeah,
to
that's
DC
right. Boy,
converters
we've had a lot
that,
of them
that
fail.
would otherwise work fine.
Yes, yes.
And we've had now a Megapac failure
Right.
in the same thing. But this is heretofore for us
Mm-hmm.
uncharted territory at 1,400 amps on the Cobra.
Right.
And in this case, potentially 2,000 amps
Yeah.
of power in this case will sag that pack.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Not too bad. We're using 400 amp hour cells, but it'll still do
It'll
it.
sag some, yeah,
And
yeah.
for the little capacitors in here to try to drive this truck, they're going to give up the ghost.
Yeah.
So we've installed a diode on the input, and I would recommend on any device, any power device like a second controller or a DC to DC converter, that you put a diode between your pack and that device.
I think so,
So
yeah.
the capacitors don't try to discharge
Right.
back
Back out,
into
yeah.
the system. And it's remarkable it's taken this long to puzzle through it. But I'm pretty confident of this one.
Cool.
It's what's been killing DC to DC
Yeah,
converters
we've
across the land.
yeah, we've
The Soliton is fine. The problem is the Soliton will put out 1,000 amps in
Right.
250 milliseconds.
Yeah, and your packed sags.
That's what you bought it to do.
Yeah, and it does it. Yeah.
That does it apparently well enough to eat DC to DC
Yep,
converters
absolutely.
that don't have diodes. Oddly, a choke, it would have to be a pretty good size one, but depending on the size of the capacitor, would slow that discharge.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That'll
it's,
just eliminate
it's-
it.
Yeah, the ripple is not really, I don't think, the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really just that draw, that
I,
surge.
I think we're toilet flushing our capacitors
Yeah, I think so, too.
back into the pack and motor
Yep. They just can't do it.
violently.
Yeah.
And a sudden drop of 40 volts with nothing to
Yeah.
stop it.
nothing, and nothing to stop it. Yeah. Yeah. What's
No
it going to do?
resistance.
No, it's just going to shoot right in there.
There's
Yeah.
an instantaneous discharge from that capacitor, and it will try to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you call that ripple, it's ripple, but what I think it is
They're just getting overtaxed. They're just dumping too quick.
back
Yeah.
flushing. So we wanted
Yeah.
to share that with you. I think it's an important concept to prevent you burning up equipment that really the input capacitors on the equipment. But for example, the Chinook DC to DC converters, and I've tested them in the lab
Yeah,
at
yeah, we have.
120% of their rating for hours.
Yeah.
And they put it out, they get rid of the heat. These things shouldn't be failing.
No.
We put them in a car and we can't keep one in there.
I know.
But all the components are potted.
Yeah.
If you open it up, it's a black brick inside.
Yeah.
They use my resin trick on their whole device.
They do. They just fill it full. Yeah.
So you can't change any components or anything.
No.
Or you can't even check any components.
No.
And so it's been a little bit of a mystery. I think those very inexpensive DC to DC converters for smaller cars that don't have a big demand, at 35 amps would be appropriate
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. Yeah. Headlights.
will now
wipers.
work fine.
Yeah, I think so too.
But yes, both Evnetics and us have a pile of burn up
I
ones.
know it's smoked ones. Yeah.
But I'm, at this point, pretty confident it's input capacitors trying to drive a car.
Yeah. Well, we saw it happen with the Cobra. We saw it happen with the
The definitive thing
was really the
with
controller for the air conditioner.
controller for the air conditioner.
Yeah, that stopped it. Yeah.
I could reproduce this at will.
Yeah. Every time you put your foot down in the throttle.
I could put the diode and no problem, take the diode back out, blow fuse, drive it very gently and no problem.
Yeah.
Step on the accelerator and blow fuse. This is what was happening.
Yeah.
And so the concept that the Soliton is blowing up DC to DC converters, and the corollary that Chinook makes really crappy DC to DC
Right,
converters.
right, all those things.
No,
Yeah.
actually, they probably make pretty large input capacitors. The larger your input capacitor, the bigger this is going to be a problem.
Right. The bigger problem you have. Yep. Yep.
And so you're not going to flush much current from a little bitty one.
No.
But if they did put a pretty good cap in there, and by that it may not be a really good cap. It might be more
Yeah,
likely
right.
an electrolytic.
Yeah.
And but for the size of the device, a fairly substantial
Fine.
one.
Yeah.
And so the Soliton's fine and the Chinook's fine, except why didn't they put that? The
I
same
know, why
question
didn't they
as the
put the
controller.
that's what happens all the
Why
time. Why
didn't
didn't
you
they
put the diode inside?
Well, and then we found out the controller. Remember, then didn't they add it to their book or had it buried somewhere about a diode and
it's
didn't
not
supply
in the
it?
device, yeah.
Yeah, right. I
And
don't
it's not
understand.
in any. And Vicor, obviously, it's a
Doesn't
switching
need it.
power supply meant to be plugged into the wall.
Right.
Oh, how are they going to foresee a massive dip in voltage and a load?
Right, and a load. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
You know, that's not.
That's not what those work. Yeah, right.
And so, you know, if you're advertising a device for an electric car, that's one thing. You ought to have it in the device. If you're just making a linear or a switching power supply,
Yeah, you wouldn't need it.
why would they think of that?
No.
So we
you
have
wouldn't
no
need it.
problem adding it to it. Chinook and other purpose-built DC to DC converters should have a blocking diode on the input.
Yeah, no,
built
that makes
into
sense
the
for them,
device.
absolutely.
Since they don't, you can buy them. I'll find something suitable from DigiKey. We'll put it on the website or
Okay,
something where people
okay.
can buy them. I mean, it's not a big deal. Even in this case, 8 amps, you know, a couple of little 1N4004s twisted together would probably work.
Probably do a couple little ones, yeah.
But let's avoid the thing and get a nice block semiconductor
And something you can mount
diode
and stuff
with
too,
yeah, heat sink and stuff. We JB welded it to the top of the case of this thing, and that will, I believe, solve this problem. And so I wanted to share that with you. It was just sort of a mental moment.
Yeah, like, wow, let's try that.
I mean, it's something we've kind of been going through for a year or two, and it's not really. It's really the same thing as the air conditioner.
Right, I think so. I
And
agree.
it finally hit me. So we're going to have our 12 volt up and tie that into the thing. We're going to use our regular start signal with the Soliton, our regular ignition signal with the Soliton. There's a couple of things that I would like to have happen. They're doing a software release. One is it's about a 7-second delay on the Soliton.
Right, where the contactors kick in. Yeah.
And so that's going to mean we go to ignition and have to wait 7 seconds. That's a unique procedure to our vehicle that most Escalades do not suffer.
Right.
And I'd like to at least reduce that. At the same time, I'd like to lengthen it, and here's why. I am uncomfortable with this amount of power. I want a red switch on the dash and probably a handle
Okay.
to do
Just
a
pull
positive
it out.
brake.
Just pull it out of the holder. Yeah.
The red switch implies a couple of Bubba contactors in the system.
Yeah.
Now, if I use ignition to turn those on and ignition to turn the Soliton on, the Soliton's going to fault out because there's no battery.
Yes. Right. There's no battery. Yeah.
So I have to turn on the contactor. If you use an external contactor with a Soliton, you have to turn on the external contactor before you turn on the
That's right.
internal
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Or before you signal the Soliton, you want to start, and it does its pre-charge sequence,
Yeah.
which is what the 7 seconds is.
What it is. Yeah. The pre-charge. Yeah.
And so that's a couple of areas that Mr. Jenkins and Sebastian might have a look at as far as making
what
it
you
a
think,
little
yeah.
more car friendly. We'll work something out for now. I'm not sure what, but again, it'll entail a special procedure. I'll probably have those contactors energized all the time, and the red button is to de-energize
To break them. Yeah.
But then we're putting a drain on the pack,
That's right.
a la
Oh,
Tesla,
yeah.
where if you park it at the airport, it gradually
So the
drains
drain.
down.
Yeah.
And so that's the, also, if we break the pack, then how do I re-energize the contactors?
Yeah. That's true. You got a problem. Are you stuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're stuck.
And so and we're not going to have an aux battery, I'm sorry.
Yeah. That would be the only way to get around that. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know exactly how we're going to do that.
Okay.
But we'll work on it. So that's where we're at. I'll put up some close-ups here where you can see the Soliton installation. It looks pretty good. I guess we're a little ragged in places. We might dress that up. But
Yeah. The holes are just in different planes and things.
But yeah, we'll be able to get at our front stuff, our motors, even the terminals and everything for the motors, the controllers. We have them reversed, of course. This is a battery here and motor there. So this one will drive the rear motor, and then battery back there and motor up here. This one will drive the front motor. And I think we're getting closer all the time.
Here we are.
Stay with us.
Yeah, that's much better. It's moving along. Not that everything is easy, but it's
I think
getting
this
there.
one's
you know.
going to fight us, but
Yeah, it's
man,
getting there.
we're one by one knocking them down. That DC to DC converter looks like it was made to be there.
Yeah,
You
that was
know,
a good spot for
we
it.
put one up on the battery pack in the back. That's going away.
Yeah, right. We
This
won't need that
just-
one back there.
This
No.
just sits right up there. Your mount of the, there was not seen on the video is my comical attempts to weld aluminum, and in this case,
Oh yeah, we didn't
cast
show that
aluminum.
cast aluminum that kind of
So part of our throttle body's
vaporized.
a little chewed up. However, Brian hit it artfully in his bathroom plumbing work, but it's all man. You know, you shake the truck with it.
And you shake the truck
so
with it. Yeah, I know.
I'm pretty pleased with it. We need to bring power forward. I haven't figured out yet where to put our maintenance switch.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. We're talking about maintenance switch.
I kind of messed up. That should have been in the battery box, and I just didn't.
We just didn't think about it. Yeah.
And it turns out, I thought I had extra room for stuff like that. We've got about an inch
Yes, we have about
in
an
the
inch.
back of the box.
Yeah.
And that's not really enough to do anything with. So we're going to struggle to figure out where to put a maintenance switch. But some things like that, we've got a long way to go. We've got the whole, got to bring forward the power.
Yeah, we got to
Our
bring
big
forward the
cables.
cables. Yeah,
Do our cable up. We've got our heating system.
right. We got that to do.
It's going to be quite a thing in this vehicle. Our cooling system,
Yes.
which is quite a thing.
Yes. Yeah, we've got. We were just talking about the dashboard. We're going to have to probably take part of the dashboard apart to get wiring in there, and you know, we've got some switches for the heater, the gauge, and just some stuff that we're going to need in the passenger compartment. So I'm going to get familiar with the procedures for taking the interior apart. You know.
There is one other little circuit I want to discuss briefly.
Okay.
It should be brief because it's not really a circuit.
Oh.
It's a component.
All right.
We're going to use an operational amplifier. Yes.
Yes, that's it.
An operational amplifier is an interesting device from the days of analog electronics. It's really not used digitally very much, but it's very good for signal processing. You can make integrators out of them, differentiators, a lot of exotic things. But it also does some simple things. We're going to use a circuit consisting of one operational amplifier and nothing else.
Okay. All right.
If you take an operational amplifier and tie the output, it has two inputs, an inverting, denoted by the minus,
Okay.
and a non-inverting, denoted by the plus.
Plus. Oh, okay.
And if you tie the output to the inverting input, the minus,
Okay.
and feed a signal into the non-inverting,
Non-inverting.
the
Okay.
plus,
The plus. Okay.
you get out, it's basically an amplifier with a gain of 1 and no inversion.
Okay. Okay.
And so if you put in 3 volts, you get out 3 volts.
3
And
volts.
if you put in 3 volts at 3 megahertz, you get out 3 megahertz square wave at 3 volts peak.
Okay.
It's called the voltage follower, and it's simply an amplifier with a gain of 1. That sounds like kind of a useless device.
Yeah, you get out what you put in, so why would you bother?
You already had.
You already had that
what
when you
put in.
started. Yeah.
Well, yes. And in our case, we want to keep what we have.
Okay.
Remember that the throttle position signal, there's really 2 signals, and they're voltages.
Yeah.
And the ECU is going to compare those,
Right. Right.
and as a sanity check. Well, this is kind of an important sanity check. The throttle, the accelerator pedal, and the throttle body are kind of part of the mechanism that Toyota would use to go Toyota on you.
Oh, for the unintended acceleration
And for the
stuff.
unintended accelerations.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
And so they've gotten very picky about these. This is why you have 2 signals from
Right.
the accelerator pedal.
Right.
And in this case, we have 2 signals from the throttle position signal that
Yes.
both do the same thing.
Right.
And so you can compare one to the other and not mistake it with just a shorted 5 volts.
Right, just
for
some
example,
voltage, right.
Which would be
that would be
full
a
on.
problem, yeah, yeah.
And so it's a safety consideration. So I would imagine that ECU is going to be pretty persnickety about that voltage.
It's going to be looking for it, yeah, that voltage.
And if we hook it into the soliton, if you notice when we did this on the bench, we got a somewhat different reading than we
Yes.
got when we were simply measuring the output without the soliton.
Without the soliton, yes.
And that's because the soliton input was loading that voltage ever so slightly, but a few hundred
But enough,
volts.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's enough. We're not going to.
We don't know, yeah, we don't want to find
We're not
out.
going to fool with it. It's a very cheap component, and its main function as a voltage follower is to act as a buffer.
Oh, okay.
You see, the input impedance on an operational amplifier is considered to be infinite. Obviously, it's not infinite, but it's, for all practical purposes, infinite.
Yeah,
It doesn't draw any current.
Okay, yeah.
And so its ability to put out a current is a function of the power of the particular chip in your power supply.
Okay.
So you can put out a, let's say a 200 milliamp current at 3.8 volts and have 3.8 volts on the input that's drawing 1 milliamp.
Yeah, okay,
If
right,
that.
it's drawn at, yeah. Okay,
And so this will remove the load from our line to the ECU. It'll get us regular signal, and I'll be assured that we
Right.
buffered the signal and essentially isolated it,
yeah.
so we can use it on, in this case, 2 solitons.
2 solitons, yes.
Two bits in one.
Yeah.
2 loads in one.
Right,
And
that's
without
true.
drawing that down. And so I'm simply going to put that on a little piece of breadboard, hook the grounds together in that board.
Okay,
From the throttle position signal and from the solitons. The 12 volts to power the chip.
power of the chip, okay.
And our input signal, that's our throttle position signal. And then we'll have an output that's basically the throttle position.
It's going to go to the soliton?
That we will use to control the
Okay.
vehicle.
Okay,
And so you never see operational amplifiers discussed very much in anything anymore, but certainly not electric vehicles. But that's a technique you can use to prevent loading of a signal and steal the signal and it not know it got
and
stolen.
it doesn't know, yeah, okay.
By buffering it with an operational amplifier, you place no load on it at all. And
Well,
they're
that'll be
not
good.
really very noisy devices.
No?
They don't make noise.
Okay,
They're
well, that sounds like we need one.
they were fantastic invention. So we've got that. That's our Escalade for this week. We've got much more to do.
Yeah, but we
But,
got a lot done.
We
a lot
are
done this
making
week.
progress, and it feels good. It's
Yes.
We've been wrestling with big problems. Now I like to play with the.
Yeah, we're getting
let's,
down.
Let's just do this thing here today.
Yeah, we don't have any more motors hanging off of 400 pounds, 500 pounds hanging off of cherry pickers.
Right. We've got all the questionable work done, and now it's pretty pleasurable because I know how it's going to come out.
Right.
We know how to put in some instrumentation, hook up a DC
Right,
to DC
run some
converter,
cables, do some
run
stuff, yeah.
cables, and
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. And so this is getting to be fun, and we're seeing the end of it. I don't think we're a month from a roll.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I can't imagine. Yeah,
It's
not unless all hell breaks loose.
well, we may roll it right back in. Work
Yeah,
on it
that's
for
right.
another 6
Work on it
months,
for
but
6
I think
months.
we'll
That's right, first roll.
Be rolling in a month.
You'll see it on video.
So it's getting to be kind of an exciting
It
project
is
for me.
Yeah, it's getting to be a blast now. Get it off of that rack.
That's about what I've got this week, guys. I'm sorry. We'll try to do a longer, more boring show next week.
Well,
huh?
they got 2.5 hours last time, so they average them together. They've
Right.
still got an hour and a half
Sure,
each show.
right,
You
there
know what
you
I
go.
mean?
We'll see you all next week.
We'll see you then.
I wanted to show you the progress on my battery heating system, the 5 boxes that had the heating pads from Warmly Yours. I thought I'd just show you the control box that I've made, where all the 5 different mats come into it. Also do a test on the system for you. I've done it once already and everything worked just fine. So I'm just going to show you how the thermostat and everything on that works. I just wanted to show you what it looks like inside this battery box heater junction box that I've made here. I've inserted a box, you know, a plastic box inside there just to hold this in position. This cover just goes on over this and jiggles into position, basically like that, and then it screws down onto that plastic box inside there. But in here I just have a protective piece of plastic to protect the terminals, which are all there, which help connect each individual mat. I've got 5 of them. I've done it like this. I've got the mats numbered basically A, B, C, D and E, and then A, B, C, D and E. I've got the neutral and the live terminals going into those, and that's how I've divided up. All the grounds tie together with the sheathed wire, so they all tie together, and that's why I have this, because of these bare wires here, that's why I have this protection cover just in there, so that I can fold everything up against it. This, and then there will be no contact with the live wires. And obviously I just have a tail with a plug on the end of it, so I can plug into an extension cable. As if there is a fault with one of the mats, I can disconnect it and isolate it, or then service it basically. So I think that's going to work quite well for me, and it keeps it all neat and tidy. They are a jumble of wires. Has a few pins on the back here that have to slot in. The sensor goes into here from the back. Slots in, and then there's a little tiny screw underneath here. Which locks it in. So here we are in the rear of the car, in the trunk. I've got my main service switch there, the guest switch, and then I have my little box for my Ziva fuel gauge, and then also the control panel for the battery box heaters. As you can see, I've got the charger over on the other side there, and then under this pad here I've got all my batteries. So this is where my front battery box is, and with the heating element that had the wires folded over each other. I know that a couple of viewers were a little concerned about that, and that they would start melting and causing all sorts of problems, but on my first test nothing happened, and I can keep an eye on the wires down in here. There's been no melting, nothing. These wires, these resistive wires, are limited to a certain temperature anyway. They are for underfloor heating. They put them under carpet sometimes, so I'm sure that they squawk a lot about safety just due to liabilities. It's the world that we live in these days. Anyway, they seem to be holding up just fine. As I said, the thermostat will only go up to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and all I'm going to be using this for is warming the boxes, keeping them above freezing during the winter, so I probably won't even have it set more than, say, 60 degrees during the winter, and it's only going to be plugged in and on during a charge mode. So that is the plan. I think that even plugging this heater setup here into one of those strips that has a GFI capability, so if it spotted a ground fault, it would shut the whole thing off. I think that would probably work quite well as well as a safety measure. So there's an on-off switch here, and it goes through a little test cycle. And then it says what the temperature of the box is at the moment, 56 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you can put this light on, so you can see clearly if it's a dark night. And then you pop up or down the temperature to whatever setting you want. On the last test I did it to 104 degrees, which is the maximum Fahrenheit. And then it just shows that all those bars there show that it's engaged, that it's turned on. And that's it. And it takes a few hours for it to come up to full temperature. And the max that it showed that it went up to was 105 degrees, because obviously the elements heated it up, and then there was a certain amount of heat. It took its time to get to the thermostat itself, or to the sensor, put it that way. And I had no issues, so I'm going to do the test again so that you can all see it. Coming up to 2 hours later, it's at 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Here we are 5 hours later, and it's now at 104 degrees Fahrenheit. It's already started cutting back. It's on full power is usually 5 of those little markings there. It's back down to 3, so it's already cutting back on its power. And as I said before I tried it, it went up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything here is slightly warmer. There's no melting going on. Absolutely fine. So what I envision with these resistive wire heated battery boxes is, obviously the thing is to watch out for is the wear of the wire actually rubbing up against the batteries and the constant moving of a vehicle. But I envision at some point, this could be developed and be, quite a reliable form of heating. It's certainly cheap enough, and who knows, it might even be able to be heated off the pack too if one had to do that. I don't think there's ever any need to do such a thing, because once the batteries have warmed up, there's quite a lot of thermal mass there, and these will stay warm. As I've tried it out before, they stayed warm for many hours after they had been heated. And really, the amount of use that I'm going to be using the car, I'm going to maybe drive around a little bit, be away for a few hours, then come back and charge it up. It's certainly not going to be a big problem with the batteries being too cold. So I certainly think there's a future for this, even if the wear and tear on them in the boxes as I've made them at the moment is possibly open to a little bit of maybe abrasion, and maybe the sheathing will be worn through or something like that. But that can easily be sorted out, I'm sure, with a little bit more thought in going into the boxes. So I'm pretty excited about it. So the other thing I finished nicely as well is the J1772 receptacle. Took a little bit of messing around with it because I had to have it positioned right so that there wasn't any interference with the plug at the top as it went in, but that is in there firmly. It's really a fantastic bit of kit. Thank you, David Kurzel. Another issue that I've been having is trying to track down a frame leak, which is obviously something we don't want to have in our EVs, and so I've done my Expert Pro, the Xantrax Expert Pro, using the Rickard method with the 12-volt DC to DC converter as an isolation platform for it. And so that wasn't the source of it. I've been going through methodically, undoing things and checking everything for the frame leak. And really, it's been a bit of a puzzle to find it. And I did find two of them, in fact. One was with my voltmeter, which I have up here in the motor bay. And the other one was seems to be with the controller. So I'm just going to show you those. Here we are. I've got my voltmeter set up there, and I'm going to touch one of my battery box terminals on this side here, and then onto the frame where I can make a contact. And there I'm reading 25.7 volts, which is there's 8 batteries in this battery box. So it's reading the voltage that's coming off them, and that's not good. So this was the other source of a frame leak. This is the power coming from my voltmeter going to this little relay here, which was designed to put the vehicle into limp mode if it dropped to a certain voltage. And that was also causing a frame leak. So even though I've got the voltmeter isolated with a 12-volt DC to DC converter, obviously I didn't isolate something correctly through here, probably the LED light or something, but I can trace that down and get to that. But for the meantime, I found the frame leak, disconnected it, and it went away, which eventually brought me back to the controller over here with these 2 orange wires coming out of this controller that went on either side of the Tyco Kilovac contactor. This is my Expert Pro here, and then this is the limp mode light that I was telling you about in the front. So that gives me at least an indication that I've slipped into limp mode, and if limp mode isn't working or something, whatever, the idea is that it pops it into limp mode, and I'll have probably a little label there, or whoever drives it knows that that's limp mode and that they really are in it, and that they have to get to a charge station to top her up. There's my fuel indication showing full, which is great. That was nice to get that working. I spent a couple of hours in the back there trying to figure out how to get this thing, and it wasn't working, and then I realized that I hadn't connected the negative ground wire to the chassis, and that's why it wasn't working. Check your connections. I took the EV out for its first road test yesterday, and with my son, and I found the performance to be absolutely so much better than it was with the lead acids. It's just the acceleration was, it just was amazing, mind-blowing. We went down to the local store and picked up some groceries, because I've been neglecting the household because of this, the project. So the fridge was empty. I went to buy some stuff, and I've got space in the back now, which is fantastic to throw all the groceries. And then we said, on the way back home, we said, let's take it on the highway. Take it on the Taconic Parkway. So we'd jump on there and bombing along up there. And we'd take the first exit, and we'd just about you know, we went to sort of 80 miles an hour and just, the turning came off and it got up there very quickly, had plenty more left on the speed. Maximum speed that I had before was 80 miles an hour, and it took a long time to get there. But anyway, this was very fast, and got off the freeway on the way back, and suddenly car died. Something packed up, and I looked, you know, trying to find out there was faults on the interface, the net gain interface. So it said something wrong, has to be fixed. Gave me was 4111, and it says here it's a halt error. Battery pack voltage reading hardware failed to collect reading. These errors are not user serviceable. Contact dealer to arrange for return of controller to manufacturer. So anyway, we're off the road again. Had some other issues as well. My clutch that I installed, I couldn't use it, so I was just driving it without the clutch pedal. Every time I tried to depress the clutch pedal, a graunching sound in there. So I'm going to have to take the whole thing apart anyway for that issue, and that's kind of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing what it was that was graunching and what's going wrong in there. Anyway, until that, what else has happened? I've got the fuel gauge working, the Ziva fuel gauge, but I haven't got the tachometer working. I can't find the wire for that, so I've got to go back to my buddy who's got a service shop, and he's going to look up the schematics, and we're going to see if I can find the actual sender wire from the engine, somewhere buried in here. Not too far, not too difficult to find, but I just have to find the colour code for it, and hopefully I can get that working as well. But it's pretty exciting. I'm very excited about the performance being so vastly improved from what it was before. Well, my clutch problem I found, and of course I've had to pull the motor, and it's been a bit of a long haul to do it, but there was a graunching sound on the first test drive, and it was basically when I was putting my foot on the clutch pedal, there was just a little bit of rubbing of the flywheel, the back of the flywheel on here, just touching, just enough to cause this rather unpleasant graunching sound. I mean, I was able to complete the test drive to the point where my controller actually failed, but I was using, you know, I wasn't using the clutch at all, so I was unable to really test the driving with the clutch. However, I'm glad I found something. At first I was worried I couldn't see anything, and I'll show you a little bit closer up where it was rubbing. You know, you can just see a little mark all the way around here where it just rubbed a little bit there, and of course basically what I have to do is bring out this adapter here forward a little bit. It just has to be a millimeter or so, I think will probably do it. I'll just to be safe, I'll make it a good millimeter, and that should put my problem to rest. There was obviously so much pressure on the clutch plate, just enough to touch it in there. Anyway,